Hello, everybody. This is going to be a lesson on financial literacy and budgeting that is tied into the ELA format. Yay for finances. So the lesson overview, this lesson, it's going to integrate financial literacy with ELA skills by having the students read, analyze, and create personal budgets while improving their comprehension, writing, and critical thinking skills. The objectives for the lesson will be that students will analyze the informational texts on budgeting and financial literacy. Students will create a personal budget based on a given scenario. And the students will write a reflection on financial decision making and its impact for their future. The standards that are going to be covered are the Common Core standards for ELA literacy, citing textual evidence, writing informative and explanatory texts, and engaging in collaborative discussions. So, the materials that you're going to need are articles on budgeting basics, like budgeting strategies, needs versus wants, or fixed versus variable expenses. The budgeting templates would also be, they could be paper or digital, but you would want to print something out or have something digitally available for the students to fill out and not just create from nothing. And then example budgets for different income levels, because obviously everybody's going to have a different level of income. And the last one is optional, but videos on financial literacy, that's put for differentiation in one way, but just to hear another perspective that might be helpful. So the sequence of the lesson, here's the introduction and what I would say and what I would do. Open with asking the students, if you had $2,000 to live on for a month, how would you spend it? And that would be a think, pair, share kind of discussion. So they sit, I ask that question, they discuss it with themselves. They write their own ideas, they discuss it with their table mates, and then they move on to share it as a class. Another thing you can do is to show an example of a poorly managed budget versus a well-planned budget. And in this way, you could use a real-life example. Personally, I could use my own budget from maybe 5 or 10 years ago when I was a poorly managed budget. And then what I have now, the well-planned budget, but, anonymous. And 3, discuss why financial literacy is important for teenagers, because it is really important to learn these things the younger you are, because then you wouldn't find yourself in pushing 30 and in a large amount of debt, ideally. The preparation for success, we're going to define the key vocabulary first, like budget, expenses, income, savings, fixed and variable costs. And to do that, we can provide visuals and real-world examples. That'll make it a little easier for the students to digest. So how I would engage them is reading and discussion. Students would read short articles on budgeting and highlighting key points on their own. They could also do group work in small groups. They would analyze a fictional person's budget and identify areas for improvement. And or a class discussion. They share their findings and discuss common financial mistakes and their solutions. And to lead through completion, I/you would be able to guide the students through a step-by-step budgeting exercise using a structured template. And I would model how to allocate income into categories, into what you're going to be spending monthly, like rent, food, transportation, entertainment, fun, and savings. Where we would have the independent practice is the personal budget creation. So moving on from that last part, students would be given an income scenario, whether they have a part-time job, a full-time job, or a given salary, to create their own monthly budget. Afterwards, they would have a writing reflection. Students would write a one-page reflection on their financial choices, challenges, and the insights that they have gained through the exercise. Some strategies for differentiation would be for supporting the EL students using visuals and charts and real-life examples. It's a lot easier to connect with the EL students usually using visual aids. In my classroom personally, we don't always have the ability to translate. So I benefit a lot from images, visuals, charts like it says, and real life examples. Also providing bilingual glossaries and translations for key terms. Like I said, I always provide some kind of translation, whether I'm doing it myself or the slides or the handout, they will be translated for the EL students. And as well offering audio versions of the texts for listening support, for having the students understand better through listening, through comprehension. And then finally, allow EL students to present budgets and explain orally instead of writing if needed. And that does depend on their level of achievement. But that would be something that you can do kind of on a case-by-case basis. And the assessment and evaluation. So for the math part of this assignment, sorry, one sec. For the math part of this assignment would be grading on the accuracy of budget calculations, how they were able to retain the calculations that we had given them and the way to allocate your money, like such as the 70-20-10 rule, 70% towards needed expenses, 20% towards savings, and 10% towards entertainment and fun. Or you can switch those last two. You can save 10% and have 20% for, more I guess fun, for lack of a better word, expenses. The second would be a written reflection. Just so to judge or to grade on the written reflection would be through clarity and depth of the financial reasoning and how well they understand, and the use of evidence from texts to support the decisions. And of course, grammar, organization, and coherence. Now, this all ties into the ELA format because I am an English teacher, and as you would be fictionally as well. We have taught the kids to cite. We have taught the students to use the evidence and move on from there. And finally, the participation assessment. As I've shown a couple times before, there are multiple opportunities for the students to engage in discussions within their own groups and in a class discussion. And as well, contributions to peer discussions on financial strategies, because ideally what would happen is the students would start to think about this themselves. They're all going to have their own ideas. They're all going to have their own methods and their own, what they want, what they don't want, what they need to save for, and what they want to spend, in a frivolous way, I guess. Again, for lack of a better word. So that about wraps it up, and I really appreciate you watching this, and I hope this is a bit more informative on how to instruct the students through a budgeting and a financial literacy while also connecting it to the English language arts. Thanks again. Hope you have a great day.